Okay, this video is for Nathan or anybody else who's got some beginner questions for the KTM 2023 Super Adventure SAR. So there are some quirks to this bike. The first of which is the cooling systems. So keep an eye on your coolant down here. There are some known leaks. There's one of the hose connectors that's inside that has a little bit of burr on it. So if you notice your coolant going down, or if you smell coolant, even if you don't see it, but if you smell coolant, that means it's leaking on the engine, and you're gonna have to take all the plastics off, take your tank off, which is not that big of a deal, and retighten all your coolant hoses, and that'll take care of that problem, okay? Your question though was about the chain. So I'm trying to do this one-handed. Take a screwdriver, nice long one, put it on top of the chain, put it in that notch. And if this screwdriver is flat and level, it might take a little bit of firmness to get it there. But if it's flat and level, your chain's good. If you're starting to hear slapping noises, that means your chain's too loose. And of course, if you can't get it, flat and level, that means your chain's too tight. Yeah, so it's a pretty handy tool, really easy to do. The other thing I would tell you is if you ever change your chain and sprockets, they make the front sprocket in both a cush drive and a non-cush. Use the cush drive because this motor is so flippin' powerful and surgy that it'll vibrate the bike apart and definitely vibrate your hands. So I strongly recommend that. There was also a question about lower engine protection. The KTM stuff seems to be pretty good in my opinion. That combined with the bars, it's certainly better than what you can do on the Honda Africa Twin. They make a trail jammer, but it's not as good a coverage, okay? The other issue that has come up frequently is head shake. And so people try to increase the dampening on the lower dampener. I ended up taking mine off. I solved the problem by tightening up the head nut. Now the way that I do that is basically how I do it on dirt bikes, which is you tighten up the head nut until the bars stop falling over, which is just perfect enough. You need to maintain it every once in a while. And then of course I went with the Scott steering stabilizer. But I know that if I put the Motaz Dual Adventurers on the front, I end up getting that head shake, especially if I've got full R80 luggage in the back. The other things, I check cables, make sure that they're not wearing or rubbing on anything. I just run my fingers in there. There are two cable trunks underneath the seat. I just check those to make sure that they're not rubbing on anything either. Some other people have had some problems with those. I've not had the issue with them. Little aftermarket stuff that I've done, I put the SAS windscreen on at the advice of the KTM shop that I go to. Fantastic advice. The lower screen's okay, but the wind ends up hitting you right in the face. This is much better on highway distances. I went with the carpoo ride. Oh, and I vinyled this too, which helps with the shade on the carpoo ride. The carpoo ride, the 5.5, which my wife has, that fits in here and is very light, but I like the bigger size because frankly, I'm getting old. It does fit within these brackets. So if you go all the way up with this, it fits perfectly in there. So that's a good fit. And I run OnX on that. I just download maps and I've used it for BDRs and stuff and it's turned out great. The other thing you can do is Peer Run, I think is the name of the company. They make this top plate, which you can put a knoblin on for Moto luggage. And then the side pods, these fit the aux pucks, but the really cool thing is when you put the R80 on here, it drapes right over these so you don't have to take these off. You just keep those on there. So it's fantastic. There's also a company in, I think, Germany called Heinz Corp that makes a high fender relocation kit. So that's a 690 fender, KTM 690, or maybe it's a Husky fender, I'm not sure. But it's a KTM fender in white, and then if you can get an orange and whatever. And then the lower fork legs, you can tell it's off of an 890. The other thing I've heard people have issue with is dirt getting up in their seals, their fork seals. I found these service long covers and they seem to be working great. So I've had this bike 20,000 miles. I've done the valve adjustment, which was fairly easy. If you can take off the tank, you just keep going and get down to the valves. The only tricky bit was the secondary air system, which is right here. You do have to remove that, and it's just tough to get your hands in there. You got to pull off this plate and loosen up a couple of fasteners. But other than that, this bike is fantastic. It's super easy to work on. It's a little intimidating at first, especially if you've had like a BMW, which is legit hard to work on, and you need special tools. With this, you can take the whole bike apart with the toolkit. I highly recommend these bags. These were like 10 bucks. These are bicycle bags, actually. I got off of Amazon. They work great, and I went on each side, and they fit right here in the pocket. So anyway, if you have any questions, just give me a shout.